We are back for part 2 of the Glowing in Tech podcast, sponsored by Makers. Today, we'll be talking about
the career challenges that Simo has faced so far, and then
what's the tech tea, where Simo will be talking about something controversial in the tech industry.
Fantastic. So, Simo, last time you spoke about your different roles across the industry. So you've seen quite a few different organizations and you've got quite a lot of experience as an engineer now. What is the career challenge that you've overcome?
That I've overcome.
Oh, you don't have to have overcome it. Okay, well, yeah.
Yeah, that you've experienced, and how did you navigate that?
I mean, it's hard to summarize. I guess if I had to summarize, like give a name to the things that I found most challenging in my career, is mostly to do with kind of decision making within a company and how it affects, I guess, your work as a software engineer. I've both at Google and at Memrise, I've just experienced a lot of, probably everyone's experienced it, this feeling where you're kind of working on one thing, then priorities change, suddenly you have to work on another thing, and it kind of feels like you're not quite sure how decisions are made, or how based on what things are decided. And I guess that I've been in a couple times on this end where, you feel like, some kind of, say, a new team is created, there's an effort or a project or something, and it seems to have support, but then actually maybe over time you realize it doesn't really have the support, or some people actually don't agree with it and all that thing. I don't think it's kind of specific to tech. I think it's just a people thing, I suppose, or politics thing. I think politics basically.
Yeah, no,
the hardest thing.
It's a really tricky one, because especially like as an engineer, when you've spent some weeks, sometimes months on a project, and then you have leadership say, "Oh, we're deprioritizing that, we're scrapping that," and it can be really tricky to, like, first of all, just agree with that as a decision, and then also,
and then speaks from experience.
Or sometimes it's like, I've spent so long on this thing, and you're personally attached to it.
I know. It's like your baby. I've been nurturing this for how many months now, and now it's going to get scrapped.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's out of your control. So, like, what can you do to deal with that? Like, how is that something you've navigated?
And also, like, do engineers have any influence? So, for example, if an engineer is told, like, we're going to deprioritize, like, something that you've been working on, is there any scope for engineers to be able to challenge that? And
yeah, I think it can be in the right context. I think basically nowadays I realize that there's so many different flavors of, I guess, the tech companies. So say Google, and even within Google it can be very different depending on in which product you work. But you can work in very engineering driven culture, or in general, Google is a more engineering driven culture. And so you can see engineers having a lot more say. So even if you, as a particular person on the team, maybe can't always decide something, you can see that your manager, who is an engineer, or their manager's manager, or the eng director, is the one making decisions, or seems to be the one that has influence. And so that's sort of the perspective I had at the beginning, because that was where the kind of place I worked in. And product managers were almost almost non-existent. Not that it didn't exist, but they didn't have. I worked in cert ads ranking, so it was very technical and very. We had metrics that we were trying to optimize, and then there weren't so many questions about, like, what should the product be. It's like an ads thing. You're trying to get people to click more. That's kind of what it is. And so we had a lot of freedom, I suppose, in making creating projects that we thought would improve ranking, and I don't think that's always necessarily a good thing. Like sometimes, engineers, if you go too deep into like not just because you can build something doesn't mean that you should build something.
You mean like optimizing for the sake of it
Yeah.
and kind of getting over engineering something.
Exactly. But so there's that. And then later on with Memrise, for example, was very different, where I guess there was a lot more it was a lot more product and maybe sometimes kind of marketing driven kind of thing. Or this sort of growth marketing or growth stuff where you're just trying to improve the funnel, improve the onboarding experience, all that, to have fewer users drop off. But that meant that some people, I wasn't on the team, but we're just redoing the onboarding screen again and again and again,
Constantly.
And I guess it can be like, maybe that's the other struggle I've had, is sort of, I think you can get into the struggle of feeling like a tool. That's like, yes, you have a lot of agency in how you write your code, but someone else is telling you what to write, and you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that can, I don't know how you resolve that really, because to some extent, that is your job.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, I think, because some people prefer that. Like some people like to have a clear definition of what they're doing and not have to make those decisions. I'm someone that definitely, like, I want to have input on the thing I'm building, and I want to be in the room with the customer and like understand the problem properly, so that then the thing I build optimizes for that problem.
Exactly.
Whereas like I know that it can be a preference for other people to have that clear definition and not need to deviate too far from that. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting one, because I think it's opinion and like preference driven too.
I think basically it's something. There's probably no right or wrong. It's just like, how do you prefer to work? So when you interview somewhere, I'm always trying to figure out what the best questions are to ask in interviews. As in, like, when I'm being interviewed, when they ask, like, so do you have any questions for us? What do I ask to understand, like, would I like working there? Is this the approach? Do they have that? Do they have the sort of working style that I like? But I think it's important to ask these questions, because that way, if you are someone that would like to be more involved in product decisions and meet clients and things like that, then there are totally places that want engineers like that.
Yeah.
But then there are also places where I mean, not that they necessarily don't want it, but it's not how they run, so you'll have a worse time there.
Yeah. And I think we had a mentor, both separately, the same mentor, who her goal was to get a product engineer role.
Oh yeah.
And like that was, so she wanted to have the ability of like conceptualizing the feature, designing it, and then building it, and then like being that whole process herself, which I think is a really cool thing, but feels like something that you do like when you're way more senior than I am right now.
I feel like I'm like that too. Like I kind of want to be involved in, especially with the customer in mind.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes as engineers, and when you're used to a product, you make certain assumptions that people should know to click on this. But it isn't abundantly obvious. It's just the fact that we've been dealing or seeing the same page so often that it's obvious to us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense for a new user when they get on the platform to follow the same kind of, to have that great user experience and a clear user experience.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great to actually, as you're saying, getting feedback from customers to know like their problem areas and how you can solve that as an engineer, but also approaching the problems, assuming that you know nothing about this platform and making that as abundantly clear as possible. That's why it's cool to work in cross-functional teams, because it means that you're able to work closely with like a product manager to have better defined tickets to account for that, and that's the beauty about iteration as well, because like V1 does not involve a great user experience, but then getting feedback and how we're going to make this better for the next iteration, that's just fantastic.
And that's the dream, right? But what happens if you do V1 and then it gets really bad feedback, or it doesn't even get to that stage, but someone says, yeah, we're not doing this thing anymore? How do you deal with that?
Well,
Yeah.
that's happened to you, Jessie, so tell us.
No, I'm asking for advice here.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's happened to me as well. I don't know, man.
I don't know, girl.
I mean,
That's the
if you're a
truth.
manager, then I suppose there's more you can try to do.
Mhm.
But I mean, to me, I guess it becomes about like, well, okay, so I guess in one situation that I remember, it was definitely a politics thing in the sense that the feature had been launched and it didn't do well. Then it didn't make like there was so much pressure for like product, I suppose, like or product manager on this thing to succeed or to have like something to put to like show for that. It just felt like this particular feature, this whole thing, just was too you know, it was kind of toxic now. Like you can't.
Yeah, it had
so
too many hopes attached to it.
And so and so product just was like, no, let's just do something else now because from a product manager perspective, they just felt like there's no way I can profit from this as a product manager and show get a success out of it. So and then that's really hard. I mean, unless you can somehow show how you would like change that perception of the feature as not a doomed feature. I don't see.
No, it makes sense. So I think I guess if you've done that route, you've tried to get executive or leadership buy-in and it's not worked, probably just don't be so emotionally attached to the project.
Oh, Jessie Poo. She's so attached. Bless Jessie's heart.
And baby.
They're her babies. And on that note, we'll be turning to something a bit more fun. It's time for What's the Tech Tea. Simo will be sharing her controversial take on something within the tech industry. So what is that today?
I guess I don't even know how to start on this one. I guess I really like being an engineer. I like building things, but there's so much hype, all the hype around it, or sort of all the company culture kind of stuff that seems to always accompany it. Sometimes I feel like it makes things less motivating rather than more motivating.
Ooh.
So I'm talking. So I don't know. I think a lot of people talk about imposter syndrome in the tech industry, and often related to like technical things, as in am I good enough technically? I don't feel like I am. I also had that, but I also sometimes felt like, wow, is everyone so passionate about I don't know, getting fulfilling this company vision, or am I the only one that's like sort of into it but not dedicated
like ride or die, like
life to this?
Like wake up and just eating coding for breakfast.
Or and also every company has their values and they're like, we at insert company here are passionate and we are customer obsessed and all these kind of things. And it's like, I don't know that I don't want to be all these things. This is a job still. And sometimes I guess I don't know whether that just is to do with how kind of startups work or the Silicon Valley sort of ethos that all the tech companies kind of still have inherited, even if now they're building them here. But just in one sense, having a really strong culture can be really nice. Obviously, it gives you a sense of belonging. I did really enjoy my time at Google. It was nice. A lot of aspects of Google culture were nice, and it felt like you had this shared culture, I suppose. But also, when sometimes you don't agree with something, or you're just not that into it, this feeling that someone your features get canceled, whatever, but everyone's like, oh, but all we care really about is the customer and what's good for the company. And so,
there's no space for your
feeling. This new thing. And it's like, no. I wish sometimes we could all just be more real
Mhm.
and not pretend like this is not a company. Like the company is not your family, and not, you have friends within the company, hopefully sometimes.
Yeah.
But the company as a whole is still a company, and it's not your friend.
Yeah, I think it's an important one because, like you're saying, that kind of messaging, that kind of like you must be passionate, customer obsessed, all of that like dramatic language can be something that's used to excuse bad behavior and like excuse how you feel. Like you're saying, we should feel entitled to sometimes feel a bit sad when our feature gets deprioritized.
Exactly.
And it shouldn't be like, oh, but it's best for the customer, so you don't deserve to feel like this, right? And like you said as well, with kind of not necessarily always being 100% diehard for that company mission. That should be okay too. Like it shouldn't be something that's like what is it, like a stick to beat you with?
Yeah.
Something to tell you like you're not doing good enough because you're not obsessed, passionate about this feature and all of that stuff. I think that's a really good point. What are your thoughts, Amber?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that sometimes it can be, you know, I feel like some people are detached from like the company that they actually work with, and that's okay because they're happy to like build the features, but they just aren't that bothered about like how the company's doing or like what the company is necessarily doing. But I think it is a controversial one because sometimes like companies really want you just to be like super passionate about like the company and like what they're doing, but some people just see it as, okay, I'm doing this today, and that's okay. Like they're just very happy in their role and not necessarily about how we're going to to extend the company mission. How are we going to do this? Like they just want to do their job, and they're kind of detached from like the meetings surrounding what other people are doing or like stuff like that. So I've definitely had conversations about it, and it can feel like a pressure to feel that passionate about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Especially like when it comes across as we're all like this, and it makes me feel like, well, I'm not, girl. Like I'm just not feeling that. So it can make them feel excluded because, like, well, if we're about that and I'm not, then yeah.
And I think most people actually feel like this, but somehow when you're sitting in that all hands, like to me, often it felt like, am I like everyone else seems into it, but obviously not. Like. Yeah, and you feel like maybe I'm the only one. Obviously you're not, like, because nothing is that binary, I guess. Nothing is that, like either you're in it or you're out.
But sometimes the language can make it feel like either you're in or you're out.
Yeah, because that's a good point. It might be just like today I'm not, and today that's okay.
Today
but like,
that's all good.
Yeah. That's a really good point. What advice would you give to somebody who's feeling that pressure or trying to figure out where they lie on that? Like, how would you?
Yeah. I guess it can be really hard because, sometimes I guess what I want to say is sort of, well, talk to other people in the company and find out how they feel. But you also don't want to do that. Like at the time, I know that I was thinking like, you don't want to come across as the one that's like, after the all hands going like, oh, but that was really silly, wasn't it? But like sort of bitching.
Yeah.
But somehow. But still, I guess it would have helped me. It did always help me when you do get to see behind the facade of someone, say, which often only happens like when they're leaving.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And then it's suddenly like, so you've also been frustrated about this thing. Well, why did it? Why was this never brought up before? I would have felt so alone.
But it's like not necessarily a safe environment to have those candid kind of conversations, because it can be used against you.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, I don't know. I guess in that way, it does pay to make some, to get to know your colleagues or the ones that you do trust and talk about these things with them. Because I think most of the time you then realize that you're not that alone in that. But yeah, you can't just talk about that with anyone.
Yeah, don't unmute yourself at the all hands and say, I think this is bull.
You know what? We're 10 minutes in. I'm ready for this to be over.
Yeah.
Anyone else bored?
Anyone else? Anyone else bored? No. I will pay you to put that in all hands. That would be so funny.
No, that would be, 10 minutes later, you're locked out. Your account.
I guess that was one thing that was good in a big company like Google, because it's so big that to some extent you do get that irreverence. We did get that irreverence during like it wasn't called All Hands, it was called TGIF. But like,
thank God it's Friday.
Yeah, thank God it's Friday. Basically it used to be on Fridays and they moved it to Thursdays, but it was still called TGIF. Basically it was an all hands except that it was live stream from like Mountain View, and you could tune in or you could watch the recording. Obviously not everyone tuned in every Thursday because yeah, but what was fun was that there was also this internal kind of meme sharing platform.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
And so it had a special feature in it, which was that you could replay the memes in sort of, if you watch the recording, you could replay the memes that were in
real
time,
yeah.
in the right order, and people would react to what's happening on stage. And people like people were very snarky.
I love that.
And so sometimes it was a bit much, but like in general, I think that was nice sometimes because you felt like, okay, there's some critical thinking.
Yeah, it's nice that you were able to poke fun sometimes and be a little bit
exactly,
bit cheeky.
Yeah,
cheeky.
Yeah,
cheeky.
there was quite cheeky things on there. But in a small company, obviously, I think that just doesn't work because you know all these people personally, and it's a bit, it's not nice. It will, and if you don't already have this medium of like everyone used that meme platform. It was just part of the culture to use it. Whereas if you just suddenly start posting like memes making fun of the chief of whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I love. Just a quick point. That's what I love about the Hangouts feature now with all the reactions. You can do all the clapping.
I Google Meets have done their thing.
Yeah.
Especially the workplace Google Meets. Now they've added emojis, like the reactions that you can do. I love it because WebEx actually had that, and I missed that. I couldn't believe I missed WebEx. I used to be anti WebEx when I first joined it. I just used to hate it. It was just very corporate. It was just, I don't know what it was about it, but the reactions did what it needed to do.
Yeah, no.
But Google Meets have done, and that adding so many. They have like, it's almost like Snapchat filters, but on Google Meets now, and it's just so much fun. I love it.
It's so silly.
Okay, so this is the end of part 2.
Thank you so much, Simo, for coming on today. It's been great to have you.
How can we keep in contact with you and see what you're doing?
I'm so not a social media person. Oh, I don't know. LinkedIn, but I don't really. I don't know.
So nowhere.
Nowhere.
Exclusively to this platform.
Exclusively to the Glowing and Tech podcast.
No, but we will link all the resources and the notes that you've mentioned in the show notes of the episode. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Available on all major podcast platforms.